Good Friday morning, a feel-good summer Friday, and the Mets and Yankees are both winning again. They are playing terrible baseball teams that are limping to the finish line, but it doesn't matter. You got to take care of business, and both teams did last night. Jacob deGrom, I got my 5 starts now. Now I can relax and be comfortable with him, even though I'm not totally relaxed and comfortable with him. But I did say for months I need to see 5 starts of him healthy and dominant to feel better. And we've got that now, as he was brilliant again last night for 6 innings. And the Yankees just brought the hammer out against the A's, who are just a joke of a baseball team and haven't even tried to win the entire year. Feel good. Summer Friday. They're running out, so we're going to have a great one today. Stick with us all the way till 10. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Good morning. I was watching some of the highlights this morning. Obviously, we didn't watch the Yankee game last night. You get here this morning, and you start seeing some of the highlights. 20 hits banged out all over the place. And, Stanton was returned to the lineup, as you said, and Jamison Tyone was good. But, 10,000 people at a game where, this band of merry men, the Yankees, come in. And, that's a traveling site. New Yorkers usually go to see them wherever they are.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you just how bad the issues are in Oakland. I just wonder, when did they move to Las Vegas? I mean, I don't know if they're going to build a stadium out there. I don't know really. The politics suck out there, but I just don't know how they're going to survive.
They can't survive. They can't.
Right.
I mean, the building is antiquated. The team doesn't try to win. Nobody shows up to the games. I mean, it's one of the worst franchises in all of professional sports.
And look at the guys that they got rid of over just the last 3 years. I mean, Canna and Bassett being 2 of them. Chapman up in Toronto. I mean, they've just cut loose a lot of really good baseball players.
Frankie Montas as well,
yeah,
right?
Which is really a shame. I mean, it's really a shame. But screw that. All I care about is the fact that the Mets won last night. deGrom, he hit 99 in his last inning, and it's almost a carbon copy of the previous game where he pitched, where, I'm just waiting for Keith just to going, oh, he's perfect. Gary took care of all that.
Oh, Gary said perfect last night. Yeah, he's perfect through 4.
Right. Well, Gary has to say that. I mean, he is the lead announcer. It's the former baseball players who need to know better, and I think Keith knew better last night. I was just waiting for him to see whether or not he was going to say anything. But, so this again is it's tantalizing, isn't it?
Oh, watching
really
him, yeah. I mean, you get completely sucked in. He's the best pitcher I've ever witnessed in my lifetime when he's at the top of his game. It's a shame that we didn't get a chance to see him for a year. But, I mean, this is what we all were waiting for him not only to come back, but to come back and be this good. And he's been basically that good against everybody. Last start was a little shakier than normal for him, but he bounced right back against his terrible lineup and just was, slicing and dicing. And, he's got incentive, too, here. I mean, I know that he wants all these guys with this group and Buck, I feel they value a championship, and they're not just playing out the string and not just thinking about contracts. I think this group really, really wants to win, and Jacob deGrom is one of those guys. But he knows what's at the end of this season. He knows that if he stays healthy and he's great, that number per year that he's getting paid is going to skyrocket. So every time that he goes out there, I'm sure that's in the back of his head, too.
It's amazing that he's not going to take himself off the field again. He can't, because he wants that new contract. There's no question about it. So whatever may be ailing him, if there is something or if there becomes something to ail him, he'll most likely fight through it, I would think. I just, you see the brilliance of the player, and you see just how good he is in every start, even when he wasn't perfect in his last start. Every start, it's unbelievable how he could just place the ball wherever he wants, and how it looks so effortless when he throws it 99 miles an hour, and his sliders at 92 and 94. I mean, it's just, you're witnessing greatness, but the problem is that can this greatness be good for the next 5 years?
Well, that's the question. And, 5 years, $40 million per year is probably what he's going to be looking for, right around there. I mean, he's got a guy in his own dugout that he's developed a relationship with that's making over $40 million a year.
I guess, for 3 years. So, and he's a little bit older. I guess.
So Jacob's going to want more years right around that same number.
It's going to have to come down to, what Scherzer's done the last 3 or 4 years of his career. Winning a World Series, not losing a game for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of stuff. So he's got to have that kind of run now. I mean, he's got to be that dominating, I think, to be able to warrant some sort of long-term contract extension. And I don't really, Steve Cohen's got the money. He's our guy. There are rumblings that, Jake doesn't like it around here. He's a low-key guy. I'd much rather play on a low-key market and win, of course. I hope that guy never leaves here. I hope that guy ends up as a Met and a Met legend. He already is a Met legend, but I'd like to see the end of his career here, assuming he can stay healthy.
Yeah. That's the big if, though. I mean, it's going to be a risk for anybody because of what we just saw with him. The fact that he was out for a year, the stopping and the starting, and then we didn't know what happened last year, and then starting this year with a different injury. So, I mean, $40 million per year for 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is, whether it's the Mets or anybody else. I mean, it sounds crazy to think that him, the best pitcher we have seen in quite some time, would be a risk signing. But it's something you got to think about with his age and his recent injury history.
I tell you, man, when he's pitching like he was last night, and even last night, I would say I'll give him a 9.8 on last night.
Yeah.
I mean, 9.9 would be 7 innings like I was talking about.
Yeah.
And 100 pitches and maybe 2 hits and no runs. And, and of course, a 10 is if you can go 9, but I doubt he's going to do that until we get to the playoffs. But I don't know. It was great to see. It's great to see as a Met fan, that guy on the mound doing his thing, and it kind of puts away the stink of the Yankee sweep. But again, the Met offense had ample opportunity, and as much as Beatty's a good story, he's just not ready. He's just not ready. He's here. He's just holding the place for Escobar. Escobar's probably going to come back today, maybe tomorrow. Who knows? I think Yerme's taking ground balls yesterday, and Michael Fleegman said something to me this morning, and I didn't even think about it, and it's true. How many times do the Mets hit the ball to right field in that little cove area, and the ball dies right there? Like Nito hit it there last night. Vogelback hit it there last night.
I think it's a home run off the bat.
Right, and it just dies there.
Yeah. Well, the Kidcaster got faked out by that with the Vogelback fly ball as he was getting into his home run call last night on SNY.
I kind of like the Kidcaster.
He was good.
No, he was good. He was great, and those guys handled him great. But the point is that, and Fleegs made this very good point to me. He's a huge Met fan. He's into it. And I'm thinking, how many times have the Mets hit the ball in that part of the park where it just goes to die for an out, as opposed to the opposing teams that come in here?
Sure.
It's got to be like 80-20 in terms of percentages.
Yeah, I guess it feels that way. Sure.
And I feel like if they did something about that,
just move the fences in
or something, do something about that, it would behoove the Mets offensively to do that.
Well, they've done it once in the history of Citi Field, moving the fences in.
When they opened it up, and it started to be like the original Yankee Stadium. It's like 420 feet in center field, just because we wanted our pitchers to do well. But I really believe that. I bet you if one of those analytic geeks over there at Citi Field are listening, .72 asset management guys that are in there, do a study on how many balls are hit to that point of Citi Field and how many of those balls are hit by the Mets as opposed to the opposing teams that come in here.
Who gives us more nuggets? Mike Fliegelman or Joey from Yonkers?
I'll tell you, man, my man, if I need a Met perspective on something, Fleegs is all over it.
Of course he is, man. He's one of those guys.
And I didn't think about it until he brought it up this morning, and I'm like, you know what? And I know that he has talked about this before. I've heard him on the air talking about it. But he's right. I mean, that would be something that analytics should be looking at and saying, okay, how many balls have we hit to this spot?
Yeah.
Right? Don't they have an algorithm for that? Can't they just take out their keyboard and just put it in there and figure it out?
I would think so. I mean, it's the most analytical sport there is. I'm sure there's something.
There's got to be something.
Move it in for the playoffs then.
So anyway, then the other thing this morning, you wake up and I was reading Joel Sherman's article about the injured Yankees and their in order of their importance as to when they come back. And he's got, Luis Severino as number one.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when they put Luis on that 60-day DL, he was just ticked off because
Sure.
he had that lat problem and everything. And the whole idea for the Yankees is to bring the refortification, I'm calling it, of the Yankees. The refortification, which includes Matt Carpenter, Efros, Zach Britton possibly.
Harrison Bader.
That is all going to happen in September.
Yeah.
think about that. So
Stanton was the first piece last night.
In 2 weeks from now, this whole group of players is coming back to the Yankees, including Clay Holmes. So you're going to have, like, all the things that Brian Cashman has done, I think have been somewhat stunted because of injury. And, of course, Jordan Montgomery's success has got a lot to do with this. Injuries to the Yankees, to their bullpen, as Gary was talking about it the other day when they were playing the Yankees. But when you look at that list of players and you're like, oh, they're going to be fortified for the playoffs. So if that team is healthy going into the playoffs, now all the tweaking, all the things that Brian Cashman has done here this year, then you could really sit here and say, okay, did he do enough with Benintendi, with Carpenter?
Well, let me tell you something. Harrison Bader better come in and be Ken Griffey Jr. after what's gone on with Jordan Montgomery.
But it's all about defensive metrics with him because the Yankees' defensive metrics, center field, have been terrible.
I understand, but he's got to hit a little bit too, and he's got to get on base, and he's got to use his speed. And a lot of Yankee fans are going to be all eyes on Harrison Bader when he is healthy because everybody's paying attention to Jordan Montgomery and what's happening with him.
You know what it really comes down to, though, G? They got to beat Houston. And then they're going to have to beat the Mets. That's what it's going to come down to. So, I mean,
you got the Mets past the Dodgers just like that?
I hope so. I don't know. Who knows?
One win against the Rockies after a bad week with the Mets. I mean, and all of a sudden you're back.
Well, not totally, but I will say that watching deGrom last night is pure joy. That's all I can tell you. It is pure joy.
Yeah, it is, especially against a team like that. I mean, it's just they have no shot.
They don't have a bad hitting team.
They're terrible, man.
I mean, they have some guys that can hit.
I mean, Charlie Blackmon's seen better days now. I mean, that team's just bad, and they're really bad on the road. You see how bad they are on the road?
Yes.
I mean, they
you
can't.
Think they're out partying a lot?
No, it's just the whole Coors Field effect, I think, is what it is. But I don't know. I get frustrated. I'm so happy when the Mets can beat up on teams like this. And I'm sure Yankee fans feel similar when they see a team like the A's on the schedule. But it's also like, it's just frustrating as a baseball fan to see so many markets. And the Mets are going to benefit from this and beef up with this schedule. But so many teams and so many markets are just completely dead
like
at
Colorado,
the end of the season.
Pittsburgh,
oh my
Oakland,
God,
Kansas City.
Yes.
Miami.
Cincinnati's another
one, yeah.
I mean, it's just on. And it's nothing worse than when you're one of those teams. We've seen some bad Mets seasons. You're one of those teams, and it's September, and you've got a football team in that city, and that baseball team is completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the Cincinnati Reds in September once the Bengals start when they're the defending AFC champions.
Think about the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, with the Chiefs starting up.
Yes.
I mean, it's just nobody's going to be paying attention. The Colorado Rockies, when Russell Wilson takes the field as a member of the Denver Broncos, these teams are completely irrelevant. I mean, here, we're going to be talking about baseball more so than the Jets and Giants in October if these two teams actually live up to what we expect them to, because maybe they both go to the World Series. But there are so many places that these teams are just going to be, no one's going to talk about them. Nobody's going to care. They're going to send one beat writer into the clubhouse. They're just dead, completely dead. And, well, gotta take advantage if you're a good team, though.
There's no worse place to be than if you are irrelevant in the respective sport in which you are playing.
Yeah.
And, the Mets have been there. The Rangers have been there. The Islanders have been there. The Knicks have been there for how long?
Oh, my God, decades.
I mean, the one thing I will say about the Nets, they're relevant. There's a lot to talk about there. There may not be a lot of winning there in the last 3 years, but there's certainly a lot of talk around them. I mean, they're relevant probably for all the wrong reasons, but I think you're right. I mean, like half of baseball stinks.
I mean, it really does. And you sat through that lockout and all the back and forth and the posturing and the yelling and the this and the that, fans getting pissed off. And then they did nothing really to help out the smaller market teams or force these idiots to spend some money. Like the owner out in Oakland or Bob Nutting in Pittsburgh, they never raised like a salary floor so these guys can just sit there, not spend any money on the team, pocket the revenue sharing money, and put this bull crap out on the field
and
be 40 games under 500 and just to pee themselves on the way to the end of the season.
And pocket the luxury tax money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. Exactly. Yeah, right. It's a joke. It's a total joke. Thank God we've got the two teams we have here
it's
to talk
almost
about.
like we're back in the 20s. Like, what would they have, like 6 teams back in the 20s? It's the same thing. It's just that you're going through a longer season. You have more teams and just crappier teams. And the question is, who blinks first when you're playing a crappy team? Like, who gets lazy? Does Bassett come out today and think that, he's going to pull a deGrom? Or is he going to go out there and he's going to bulldog his way through a game and win a game against a crappy team?
Well, I mean, I think that they are ready to feast because of the stretch they went through with the Braves, the Phillies, the Yankees, and all of that. And, they lost 3 out of 4 to the Braves. They lost 2 to the Yankees. So I think they're a little bit annoyed. And Pete Alonso hitting that home run last night, that was sort of like a monkey off his back situation
but he
as
had
well.
other chances again last night, too.
I mean, but just see, he's been so bad. So the fact that he hit that home run, it really was the difference last night, was I thought, huge for him. So, I think they're ready to feast.
Crappy pitching, crappy teams means you load up offensively, and this is where you build up your resume.
You can't lose to these guys.
I mean, how about that? Like if you're Jacob deGrom, right? So put me up against one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. They have some hitters, but put me up against one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. I'll put up great numbers, and then when I come and see you in the offseason for my contract extension, okay, so I beat the Colorado Rockies. I beat the Oakland A's. I beat the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
I mean, is it really is that who he really is? That's why it's so important, I think, for him to do it during the playoffs.
Well, yeah, he's going to make his money in October.
That's where he's got to make his money against those good teams.
I mean, you not only become a legend in that time, you become a very, very wealthy man, more wealthy than he is right now, especially if you take a team like this to the promised land that doesn't have 20-some-odd championships in their history. If you tack on number 3 in their history, I mean, you're immortal. You're immortal in Mets history.
Did you watch any football at all? I know that's right. You went to the Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, right. I did not watch any football last night.
Oh.
No. Yep. I was out there.
Thank God that preseason's almost over. Thank God.
Nobody's playing.
Yeah.
Nobody in any market is playing. I mean, have you seen anybody? Like, I guess Daniel Jones is going to play a little bit on Sunday.
He's got to play.
And maybe Saquon, maybe the offensive line. Doesn't seem like anybody's playing.
I know Brady's supposed to play.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's playing. I guess he's going to come back and play, a series in the final preseason game.
He has to.
Well, he hasn't played at all yet, right?
Right.
I mean, does he have to?
No, yeah, he wants to.
Well, he wants to. Probably doesn't have to. I mean, he just missed 2 weeks of training camp. Felt like he didn't need that.
Right.
So does he really need to be in the last preseason game?
I don't know.
Everybody's scared to get hurt because you got a 17-game season now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.